The DREAM Act was first introduced to Congress in 2001. Time and time again, it has been reintroduced, gaining momentum in 2010, but it has not been passed. This led me to ask a question. Why hasn't the DREAM Act been passed? And who benefits from it? I began my journey at the Office of Multicultural and Diversity Affairs, where I met a young lady named Glory. She shared with me a little of what she has experienced while working for the office at Salt Lake Community College.
So you may have some students from Saudi Arabia that have different contracts or understandings with their country to major in certain things versus a student who's here and they can major in whatever they want. So they may have to major in science or technology or engineering, and they don't have the luxury of switching majors, versus you have students who may come from a country like Venezuela where their country is in a civil rights turmoil, and so they have to find different ways to continue to stay in school because their country is no longer supporting them.
Glory's comment on majoring in a certain subject got me thinking. If these international students are taking on hard majors that they don't necessarily desire and are useful to our economy, why don't we give them jobs? President Obama had some comments on that.
Let's also remember that hundreds of thousands of talented, hardworking students in this country face another challenge: the fact that they aren't yet American citizens. Many were brought here as small children, are American through and through, yet they live every day with the threat of deportation. Others came more recently to study business and science and engineering. But as soon as they get their degree, we send them home to invent new products and create new jobs somewhere else. That doesn't make sense. Let's at least agree to stop expelling responsible young people who want to staff our labs, start new businesses, defend this country. Send me a law that gives them the chance to earn their citizenship. I will sign it right away.
What President Obama is referring to in this statement he is making is actually the DREAM Act, which then led me to ask another question. Does the DREAM Act apply to international students? My interview with Frank, an international student advisor at SLIC, helped to clear this question up. Frank informed me that the DREAM Act doesn't actually apply to international students because this law only applies to students who are undocumented and have been in the country for a long time. Therefore, the international students are disqualified from the DREAM Act because they entered the country legally through an F-1 visa. The first international student story I ever came across was of Cheyenne Sade, CEO of Zoosk. In his story, Sade shares the difficulties of applying for a visa and even then maintaining his career. Sade's point of view was informative, but I wanted to know more. How difficult was it really to apply for a visa? So I decided to interview an international student. Moronia Olea is an international student from Chiapas, Mexico. He described the tedious process of applying for an F-1 visa in order to attend a college in the United States. A visa can only be granted for a maximum of 5 years depending on the duration of the course taken. The first step is being accepted to the college or university of your choice. In order to be accepted, you have to show proof of high school completion and be able to speak English. Sometimes minimal is fine. Aside from that, you also send endless amount of documents with personal information. The second step is to wait until you receive a letter from the institution you are applying to, which asks for more personal documents along with a letter from a sponsor, along with that sponsor's bank account information. Olea explained that a sponsor is someone who will be paying for your education. They can be from any country, but it is better to have a sponsor from the US because it makes the whole process faster and smoother. Then there's more waiting involved. After about 3 weeks or so, the school has verified that the income will be sufficient for this international student's education, and they finally receive a letter of acceptance. But that's not all. It's a 2-week wait in order to receive your acceptance letter and package, which is accompanied by a form called the I-20, which allows you to apply for your F1 visa and passport. Olea added that it's a different procedure for every city in Mexico. Aside from paying for a visa and passport, as a student, you have to apply and pay for a student permit as well. The visa alone is about $130. But even after the long process of being accepted to an American institution, as well as paying for and applying for a visa, it is not a 100% guarantee that your visa will be accepted. Therefore, you run the risk of losing your hard-earned money. On the other hand, once your visa gets approved, you are able to come to America. Hearing how long Olea's process was made me wonder, if the process of becoming an international student legally is extremely long, then why is the DREAM Act denied to these students? In the words of President Obama, it doesn't make sense. International students should be included in the DREAM Act and treated with the same respect as undocumented students. In the end, both of these students are just trying to build a future for themselves. There is a community of supporters for the DREAM Act who believe that DACA, a work permit that is only issued for 2 years, is not enough for students, not only because it doesn't include international students, but because students are limited to what they can accomplish with this status. Supporters of the DREAM Act want peace of mind without having to renew a permit that might not get approved. They have taken to the streets to march for these students because they believe that the DREAM Act should be for all, even international students.